Welcome back. Let's shift our focus to the India-China relationship. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting marked a significant step in rebuilding bilateral ties. It is the first visit to China by an Indian minister since the Ladakh border standoff in 2020. Singh's visit also came in the backdrop of the recent visit of NSA Ajit Doval to China as part of SCO meetings and visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Sun Weidong to India to meet Vikram Misri. Despite these high-level meetings, several challenges continue. Take, for instance, China's ties with Pakistan. Rajnath Singh refused to endorse the SCO joint declaration because the Pahalgam terror attack was not mentioned. The statement instead mentioned the Jafar Express attack in Balochistan. Singh said that there is no room for terror or double standards. China's curbs on rare earth magnets is another issue. India is the only country for whom the curbs have not been lifted. India has the third largest reserves of rare earth elements, but it produces less than 1% of the total world share. On the other hand, China produces around 60% of the global supply of rare earth magnets. After curbs on rare earth supply, China has reportedly halted shipments of specialty fertilizers to India for the last 2 months. These fertilizers boost yield of fruits, vegetables and other remunerative crops. Reports suggest that China has blocked exports without imposing an express ban. Joining us now to decode the India-China ties is former Ambassador to China, Gautam Bambawale. Thank you for being with us, Ambassador. Could you give us a sense of the current state of play between India and China? How significant is Rajnath Singh's presence at the SCO Defence Ministers meeting?
So, Parikshit, basically, as all of you and your viewers know, that India is a member, a long-time member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And it's a good thing that we are participating in all the meetings. Physically, we had the National Security Advisor, Mr. Doval, going to Beijing and to China a few days ago. And now you have, of course, our Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh. I think after what happened in Pahalgam and the aftermath of that, it is very, very important for India to have a strong resolution on counter-terrorism. And in fact, the important thing to note is that the SCO itself places a lot of importance on countering terrorism. So the fact that, we were not able to sign up on the declaration or the resolution of the SCO Defense Ministers meeting indicates that it was not as strong as we would like it to have been. And I think that's a good decision that the Defense Minister and his aides and other officers took.
Right. We've seen a visit by Ajit Doval, the NSA, a few days ago. Before that, the Vice Foreign Minister of China, Sun Weidong, met Vikram Misri in New Delhi. What do you think both countries are trying to achieve right now?
See, as you know, for the last 5 years, starting in the summer of 2020, basically in the months of April and May of 2020, when China moved large numbers of troops into what we call Eastern Ladakh, on the border with India, on the line of actual control with India, the relationship has been very, very difficult. The relationship has not been as good as it used to be before that event occurred, and right up till the end of 2019. So there has been a steep decline in the relationship because of the fact that there was no peace on the borders or even on the line of actual control between India and China. And that has negatively impacted the entire relationship. In fact, there have been very few intergovernmental meetings that have taken place on a bilateral level between India and China, just a few between the foreign ministers of the two countries. Now there is, there is reason because there has been some understanding in Eastern Ladakh. There has not only been a little bit of a thaw in Eastern Ladakh amongst the militaries of the two sides, but that has enabled some of these meetings to take place. Even if they're SCO meetings, there's also bilateral meetings that take place between the countries who are at the SCO, and that has enabled a slight thawing of the relationship between India and China. But let me be very clear, Parikshit, that I do not think that there is, we need to take this step by step, rebuild the relationship, and that is going to take time. It is not going to happen with one or two visits or one or two meetings. It's going to take quite a bit of time to rebuild the kind of relationship that we had prior to the Eastern Ladakh imbroglio.
Right. Would India now be approaching China very differently and with more suspicion with the kind of support Pakistan got from China during Operation Sindoor? And there is now word that they may sell fifth generation fighters to Pakistan, and that would be given as aid.
Absolutely. I mean, not just the tense and difficult relationship between India and China, but also during Operation Sindoor, we have clearly seen the assistance that China had given to Pakistan in military terms, not merely in terms of platforms that were used, aircraft that were used, in terms of missiles that were used by the Pakistan military, but also in terms of communication technologies and communication information that was shared between the two sides. So obviously, there is going to be a difficult route and road to rebuild the India-China relationship, and we will have to factor in the very close, I would even call it, alliance between Pakistan and China.
Right. Do you think in these three meetings that have taken place at the level of Vikram Misri, at the level of NSA Ajit Doval, and now Rajnath Singh, we would somehow be lodging a protest with the kind of closeness we saw between China and Pakistan during Operation Sindoor?
Parikshit, I don't think, lodging protests is going to get anything. There is the fact on the ground is that both China and Pakistan find it in their national interest to work together. And obviously, one of the countries against which they're working together is aimed at is India. So that's a fact on the ground. We will have to work with that fact on the ground. We will have to ensure that we have the capability to defend our own territorial integrity and national sovereignty, which we showed very clearly that we do have during Operation Sindoor. But definitely, I don't think that protesting is going to create much of a difficulty, because there is a very important point that I'd like to make to your viewers, which is that go by actions, don't go by words. And protesting will be merely words which will not change the reality of the China-Pakistan close alliance that exists today. We will have to factor that into our decision making and also into our capabilities for protecting our own territorial integrity and national sovereignty.
Right. I would also like to ask you about the rare earth magnet issue. China has started issuing licenses for rare earth magnets to companies in the US and Europe, but there is no change for India. We are not being even given an appointment for our industry bodies to go to Beijing and have a meeting. Why do you think that is happening? Is this because of the kind of actions that India has been taking since 2020 after the Galwan clashes to crack down on Chinese apps, TikTok, Chinese mobile phone companies? Is it something to do with all of that?
Yes, it is. You're absolutely correct. They are trying to hit back, and they have found that they have leverage where these rare earth magnets are concerned, because they're very, very important in the Indian automobile industry, particularly the electric vehicle industry. And one of the only sources for these magnets is China, because those rare earth elements which go into these magnets are only available in China. So definitely they're trying to hit back to us, and the quicker Indian industry realizes it, and tries to find alternate supply chains, even if we can do that in India, manufacture that in India, we'll have to do that. I think it's very, very clear that China is taking this kind of line and is trying to weaponize the trade that exists between India and China.
All right. My final question to you would be, what do you think India will have to be wary of after rare earth magnets? What could be some of the other sectors where China could try and put restrictions on India? We're already seeing reports about how the fertilizer supply chain could be impacted because of Chinese actions.
Yeah. Look, I won't specify particular industries in answer to your very relevant question, Parikshit. But what I will do to guide you and your viewers and Indian industry is to take a look at items where we are dependent for China for importing those items. So where a large part of our supply chain in certain industries comes through China, those are the areas which they can weaponize because they know that we are overly dependent on them for certain things. For example, we know that a lot of the APIs in the pharma industry in India originate in China and are imported from China. Almost 70% of our API imports are from China, and I have a feeling that the Chinese will turn to that as the next area which they can weaponize in their trade with India. So look at these areas where we are overly dependent on China for our imports, and those could be areas which China could weaponize.
So that could be lithium as well, and more electronic components, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. It could be any of these.
Right. Finally, sir, how do we manage this relationship to our advantage? The suspicion and tension in this relationship is not going to go. Will we be able to manage the relationship, or will it only get worse from here?
No, let me put it this way that the fact of the matter is that even though the relationship is going through a difficult phase over the last 5 years now, it's not just a short phase, but it's been pretty long 5 years. Shows that this relationship, even though it is important to both countries, is going to take a lot of time, effort, not only of diplomacy but also of the whole of government. So I think what we need to do is we need to engage a little bit, at least, with the Chinese. But we also need to strengthen ourselves at home. And that is absolutely crucial, Parikshit. We need to strengthen ourselves at home, whether it's the economy, whether it's the military aspects of it, whether it is the supply chain aspects of it, and be ready for this kind of world which is coming. And let me also clearly say that even though we think that a world which is dominated by the US is not exactly a world that we would like, any world which is dominated by China will be even worse.